This time we will study about a clause stated in the perfect tense and the passive voice. The first clause is stated in the past perfect tense and the passive voice of the speaker. The combination of the be verb, that is the body of the past participle being, and the past participle graded reveals that this clause is stated in the passive voice of the speaker. Because when the speaker states a clause about a subject-object relationship from the perspective of the object, the speaker states the existence of the object at first and describes the condition of the object with a past participle that has the trait as an adjective, because this way of statement to describe the subject-object interaction or relationship from the perspective of the object is the only one. This cannot be replaced into the other way of description. So the speaker applies the past participle with a trait as an adjective that has the role as a subjective complement. Subjective complement. The form of the intransitive verb had reveals that this clause is stated in the past tense, and the form of the past participle being to specify the definition of the intransitive verb had reveals that this clause is stated in the past perfect tense. As the speaker states how the experience of the subject is with the clause stated in the perfect tense, we can understand that the speaker was in the subject-object relationship with the period as the subject. The speaker
received
the period as the object
in the
subject-object relationship with the time, because the period is the fundamental basis to discuss about the experience of the subject. The speaker responded to the flow of time in a way to exist during the period from the far point in the past to the close point in the past, because the form of the intransitive verb had reveals that the speaker delivers this clause at the present when the conversation among the speaker and the listeners happen. The experience that the speaker describes was completed at a past point in the past. So we can understand that the form of the intransitive verb had reveals the time gap between the close point in the past when the speaker declared the completion of the experience and the present when the speaker delivers discourse to the listeners in the conversation. During the period from a far point in the past to the close point in the past, the speaker
responded,
in a way to exist. The speaker
who responded,
to the flow of time, in a way to exist.
received,
The condition described by the transitive verb grade from an unstated subject. The subject and the object, who is the speaker, is in the second subject-object relationship, and the past participle and that has the trait as an adjective describes the speaker as the object to receive the condition described by the transitive verb greet, that is the body of the past participle greeted. So we can understand that the speaker has the two roles as the object in the subject-object relationship with the time. At first, as the time receiver, this form, this past participle being, reveals this fact. And the speaker
received,
the definition of the transitive verb greet from an unstated subject in the subject-object relationship with the unstated subject. The clause conveys the intention of the speaker as the object to declare the completion of the experience to get. The action indicated by the transitive verb greet more than once. At the close point in the past, which lasted from the far point in the past to the close point in the past. When the speaker describes how the experience that completed already in the past applies the form of the intransitive verb had, which is described by a past participle that has the trait as an adverb. So we can understand that the past participle being has the trait as an adverb, and the trait of the past participle greeted has the trait as an adjective to have the role as a subjective complement. This past participle being describes the subject in the indirect way via the definition of the intransitive verb had. The second clause is stated in the present perfect tense, and the passive voice of the speaker. There is a clause, I have been greeted. In this clause, the speaker declares the completion of the experience at the present when the speaker states and delivers this clause to the listeners in the conversation. So this occurrence between the time when the speaker declares the completion of the experience and the present when the speaker delivers this clause to the listeners is revealed with the form of the intransitive verb have, which is specified by the past participle being. The past participle being that has the trait is an adverb specifies how the experience of the speaker is. The speaker is in the subject-object relationship with the period as the fundamental basis to discuss about the experience of the speaker. as the subject. The time as the subject gives the speaker a period, so we can understand that the speaker as the time receiver is described by the past participle being with the trait of an adverb. The speaker responds to the period as an object in a way to exist. And the speaker is also in the subject, in the other subject-object relationship as the object during the period that the speaker receives as the object with just being. At the same time, the speaker receives the condition from an unstated subject in the subject-object relationship as the object to receive the condition described by the transitive verb greet. So we can understand that the speaker is the object in the two subject-object relationships. The first one is with the time, and the second one is with the unstated subject. So we can understand that the first past participle being has the trait as an adverb to describe, to specify the definition of the intransitive verb.
Have.
We can understand that the clause stated in the perfect tense reveals how the experience of the speaker is. The past participle being with the trait as an adverb describes the speaker in the indirect way via the intransitive verb have. The past participle greeted describes the speaker with the trait of an adjective. We can say that the past participle greeted has a role as a subjective complement. The clause conveys the intention of the speaker as an object to declare the completion of the experience at the present to get the action indicated by the transitive verb greet more than once, which lasts for a period from a point in the past to the present. The third clause is stated in the future perfect tense and the passive voice of the speaker. The application of the modal verb will to describe the definition of the intransitive verb have reveals that the experience that is going to be dealt with in this clause is going to be completed at a point in the future. The speaker is going to declare the completion of the experience. So we can understand that the speaker delivers this clause about the ongoing experience. The speaker reveals the time gap between the present when the speaker delivers this clause to the listeners and a point in the future when the speaker is going to declare the completion of the experience with the application of the modal verb will to describe the intransitive verb have. The speaker is in the subject-object relationship with time. The speaker receives the period that is the fundamental basis to discuss about the experience,
In a clause, delivering
how the experience of the subject is. So we can understand that the form of the past participle being reveals that the subject, who is the speaker, is the time receiver. During the period for the experience, the speaker responds in a way to exist. From the definition of the be verb, to describe the existence of the subject in the indirect way via the modal verb will and the intransitive verb have. At the same time, when the speaker exists during the period of experience and responds in a way to exist, the speaker also receives the condition described by the transitive verb greet from an unstated subject. So we can understand that the speaker is the object in the two subject-object relationships. One is with the time, the other one is with unstated subject, mediated by the transitive verb greet. That is the body of the past participle greeted, applied with the role of a subjective complement. The clause conveys the intention of the speaker to declare the completion of the experience at a point in the future to get the action indicated by the transitive verb greet more than once, which will last for a period from the uncertain point in time to the point in the future. We can understand that the starting point of the experience is unspecified, uncertain. The speaker reveals that the experience of the subject is going to be declared as a completion in the future.